to the Texas Law Dog Podcast, where we will get you off, literally and legally.
This is a parody podcast, and all content should not be construed as formal legal advice used for educational, marketing, and solicitation purposes only. The Texas Law Dog will not get you off literally or legally.
Welcome back, friends.
Hey, Law Dog.
Today, I gotta get my Bob Ross.
Welcome to today's Halloween
We're gonna be
episode
painting
of
a happy little picture, and I hope you're ready for a delightful little couple of 20 minutes here. And actually, Akash, this is our basic blank white canvas. It's got can you run the colors across the bottom so the people, if they want to draw along at home, we've got our police brutality blue,
police brutality,
our, racist red. Yes.
Racist red.
Okay, so we're gonna start out. And what do you want me to draw anyway? I mean, I need something.
I
Put you on the spot.
Can you draw any animals?
Elephant or a dog, perhaps. No, I can draw a horse's ass, but then that's boring. I would rather draw. Let's draw me in the courtroom.
Okay, let's draw a jail. Yeah, you in court.
I only have these colors too. They're not that, and I don't have real paint, so I'm not doing Bob any favors here, impersonating him, but I am gonna give it my best shot. All right, so let's draw a basic outline here. Courtroom. Okay. So this is where I enter. Justice. Or die. Okay, so this is where you come in, right? So most people haven't been in the courtroom. This is actually going to be a pretty good lesson. I'm gonna kind of bring you through like a normal day in court, since like most people don't know how. Like lawyers to them are just people that they see on TV. If they don't have anyone in their family that's a lawyer that can just explain to them, that's mostly boring. But it is kind of exciting when you go to court because you come in and then basically you've got the judge, and he is the man in charge. He literally, give him a big gavel. He's the balls and strikes caller. I mean, for the layperson, this is the guy. He loves his life because everyone has to stand up when he comes into the room, and they all go, all rise. And this is the man. Give him some robes. He sits up there, and basically what happens is he calls a docket. Every day in a courtroom, there's a docket. So you've got your standard running of criminals. Let's start going over some crimes that we may see on a docket, like
DWI.
That's a good one. So you've got your defendants, and they have to sit all behind the bar. This here is the bar.
Not the good kind.
Not the good kind, but it is the kind where you have to be, somewhat of a hack professional in order to cross it. So in order to get up there, you got to take the bar exam and go to law school, unfortunately. But once you do, you get to have a little bit more power than everyone else that's sitting in the pews back here, hoping that you are better than the guy next to theirs lawyer, because they may have a guy who absolutely hates himself and his clients, and that is not going to be a successful way to get your case resolved. Okay, so there's my client. He's smiling, right? Because he knows I'm fucking coming in. I'm there. When I come into the courtroom, it's, well, usually either if my shirt's off, then the judge is going to be, talking to me about that. But if I'm not,
you come into the courtroom topless often?
Well, on Zoom.
Okay.
As is discussed last episode, I unfortunately flashed myself to the entire courtroom this morning when I was having a Zoom hearing. But that was just growing pain of our new normal is Zoom meetings. But anyway, this is like assuming we're back in normal court. Here's my guy. He's very happy. I don't know if you can see that very well, but essentially you've got him and he's amongst the other defendants charged with, DWI. You got your possession of marijuana. You got your assault, family violence,
Public intoxication.
So that's a class C, but it's not an arrestable offense, actually.
Oh, okay.
People don't know that. It's a fine only offense. One of my very good friends happened to get one on St. Patrick's Day last year, and he was in his 30s. So that is still something that I can help you with, but it is a little bit easier.
Theft.
Moral of the story, don't get so blacked out that you wind up naked in a stranger's front yard and found by a strange dog, which then leads to other people finding you, and then you go back the next day and your keys are in the front yard exactly where you left them. That's a public intoxication case. So, these are a little bit more serious because you're facing jail time. All right. So once we get into the courtroom, there's people in the way. The bailiff is actually going to make them get out of the way. So I need to clear a path. These people are going straight to jail because they do not belong there. Okay. So once you get into court, the judge calls the docket, and that's basically where everyone stands up and you announce whether you're present and whether your client's present. And so it's generally takes 30 minutes to call a full docket, and all the lawyers are sitting. They have counsel tables. None of my pens work, of course. Let's do some police brutality blue. Okay. And just remember, you can draw any scene you want. Like this is your painting. It's your experience. I want the listeners at home to just feel comfortable in their drawing their own courtrooms. Okay. So once you sit down at counsel's table, generally you need to get there early if you want to actually have a seat, because, and the older lawyer, like if you're a dickbag, you need to let older lawyers sit down. So that's another young lesson for the young lawyers is that don't chew gum and don't let like old people stand while you sit. Come on, Jesus. So once we've got our old lawyers in there, and they won't ever see this, by the way. So it's okay if I talk about them. Because they don't know about podcasts. So funny, man. I was talking to my dad. I was like, Dad, I'm going to start a podcast. And he said,
what's a podcast? No, I'm kidding.
I was like, you never heard of Joe Rogan? He goes, Joe Rogan from Fear Factor? And it's just such for a boomer, that is how they know Joe Rogan. It is not the guy that changed,
Oh, I know, bro.
how people do stuff, but like, it's crazy that the generational divide is there. Okay. It always is. It always has been. It's different depending on what's going on in the world. That's okay though, because the older people generally like to think they have all of the wisdom. They've been around the longest. So we let them sit at counsel's table. All right. So what happens is basically after they call the docket, let's draw the evil district attorney. We need an evil DA. Horns. Those are horns or cat ears. Okay. It's Halloween. So here's your DA. The DA.
Hey, can you use a darker color for that one? I can't see that one.
Yeah. Use some.
I feel like she's a pretty crucial part of the story.
She is.
She's the one that always.
Gatekeeper. She is the gatekeeper. And as much as I piss her off sometimes, I always try to stay on her good side. Because she holds the keys to your client's case, or he. But basically, when they have all the files, like a court, they'll have all your files, right? So when you get arrested, you go to court docket, and there's all these other people that are there on the same day. So your lawyer grabs their file, and in that file is the police report, It's it's like any kind of toxicology reports. So I need to finally draw myself here. Diligently working for my clients.
Texas Law Dog.
Texas Law Dog, indeed. All right. I don't know how to draw a chair on a two-dimensional surface, but there is a jury box over here, and there's 12 seats. And you can either have 6 or 12. 6 for misdemeanors, 12 for felonies. It's how many jurors you get. What I'm doing is looking for one person to convince the other 11 about my case. That's what I do. But essentially, what I'm doing on a regular day when I'm not in trial, do we have a red marker? I don't know. All right. So I'm going to just draw myself. Damn it. This is horrible. And by horrible, I mean it's going to go for pretty big money at auction on eBay, actually. So. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Law Dog. I'm going to actually draw myself here. I'm going to be fat, though. I'm not a very good artist. As you can tell, I failed art in elementary school. But that's okay, because as long as I'm trying, then I'm smiling. And here's me reading your files diligently.
Similarity is striking.
It is, and like, look,
it looks just like
cleaner arms. Okay, you know, I got what God gave me, so I'm working with what I got. Right. Here's me reading your file. This is your life. I hold it in my hands at that point because right in there is where they're charging you with stuff that's like bad, and they're going. So while I'm in here reviewing your life. Got my bolo tie on, and I got to give myself a hair, obviously. In London, there's 2 different kinds of lawyers. There's solicitors and barristers, and when you're actually a solicitor, you get a wig. So I didn't get a wig. I got this wig, but I didn't get an actual wig.
Oh, that's not your real hair?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a clever one, Akash. Okay, so while I'm examining your file, I'm generally finding out how bad the state screwed up. And the state being the police officers. Just because they take a training course called report writing, but a lot of them don't know how to do it well. So when I'm in there and I'm analyzing the police report, I'm looking for inconsistencies because they do write with a lot of the same language, but it depends on the agency and it depends on the officer. But there's a lot of little nuggets of gold in there. And so a lot of these other lawyers, these older lawyers, they're just over here. And what they do after docket call is they don't look at the file. They go over and they talk to this district attorney and they say, "Can I get a rec?" And in that language is indicative of a lazy lawyer. Okay, so that basically just means that the lawyer wants to plead the case. They're not looking to find an avenue to fight it. And if you don't have someone that's scrupulously analyzing your life and your file, then before I walk over to her and present my side of the facts, I'm not going to automatically admit defeat by just asking for what the state's willing to offer. That already gives the state the presumption that you have no interest in fighting them on this case. I always take the approach to fight first and then ask later, but depending on what happens in the case and depending on who the district attorney is, like that's why our jobs, they're not going to become robots. Like we have to know how each court operates, how each district attorney usually operates, what they like to do. Like that's only stuff you're going to get through people that have experience dealing with those people. But either way, the majority of these very, very awesome district attorneys are extremely great people. So what I'll eventually end up doing is I'll look at your file and I'll say, "Okay, Mrs. District Attorney." Usually they'll sigh, kind of depressed, right as I'm walking over. Which is a good sign. It means that they don't like you, or they know that they're not going to like this interaction. Because generally what I'm doing, and I try to be personable and like have a personality. There's so many people that like have this straight professional, all business, you know, I'm dressed like Bob Ross drawing a terrible courtroom. I don't care. I'm going to do what works. Like it's going to work for my client because I'm going to walk up to her and I'm going to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing an officer that did the HGN wrong. I'm seeing an officer that says that they saw 7 clues when there was maybe only 3, you know, on a standard field sobriety test. So then the DA they have so many cases, unfortunately, that they don't have as good of an understanding of their case as we do because they have a lot more cases to deal with. So when you've got generally the DAs, if it's an early case, they're not going to be aware of your facts. So they're going to want to have time to look it over. And then they'll either just be like, okay, we're going to do the standard here, which is a standard means you're going to get probation. You're going to plead guilty. The judge is going to defer your guilt. And then if you successfully complete probation, it can be wiped from your record via non-disclosure. So there's benefits to pleading cases. I don't automatically look to go in and plead a case. Like it's boring to me. It's the easy way out. So if there's an avenue to fight, I'm going to be looking for it. So over here, I'm scheming, right? I'm thinking jury ? Because in our system, juries move the cases. Like you got to put up or shut up. If I've got a case, I'll give you, for instance, I was paid by a county one time to defend a case where my client was blind and he had been alleged to have assaulted his wife. So he was charged with a Class A assault family violence, and he happens to be a blind individual, an older black man, and he was a very nice guy. I actually think we should call him one day. We should just cold call him and see if he remembers me and then use that as a testimonial. So put that in our good ideas box. Cool. Thank you. Okay, so essentially I spent the first 2 hours of the case arguing with the judge about whether or not he'd be allowed to wear sunglasses in the trial. Like, I wanted him to be full on Stevie Wonder in there, and the judge would not have it. So I pull up case law. I've got, essentially when you go to trial in a criminal case, you are throwing everything you can up against the wall and seeing what will stick, because you've got to get crafty in how you defend. So in this particular set of facts, right, my client had been drinking heavily during the day, and he was in the garage, and his wife came in and was very angry with him for being drunk and ended up beating him up. But when the cops came, there was a massive misunderstanding. This is very common in assault family violence cases, but there was a misunderstanding. They arrested him, even though he had all the injuries and she had like a scratch. And so what ends up happening is, in those cases, a lot of the times, the victims are going to sign affidavits that are for the district attorney, stating they don't want to press charges against this individual. So it puts a lot of these domestic violence prosecutors in a tight spot, because a large majority of these cases are cases where people called the police because things got out of hand. And so what I do is I humanize my client. When I picked the jury, I made sure, like, my theory was like, okay, this is a blind guy and he can't see. He didn't beat up his wife. And that was like what I went with. And ultimately what ended up happening is the DA refused to dismiss it. So she ended up looking like a fool because the witness never showed up. One of the officers had been fired for showing up to a standard field sobriety test training drunk. And if I hadn't subpoenaed his internal affairs records, I wouldn't have understood or known about that. So you need to have a lawyer who's willing to go the extra mile. You've got to be subpoenaing these officers' certifications, their internal affairs records. All the dirt is going to get you the stuff that you're going to be able to use to impeach them when they're on the stand. Because in that trial, the officer didn't see anything that had happened. He had just shown up after the incident. He witnessed none of it, and he got 2 statements that were conflicting. And then they tried the case on that. They didn't even they tried to attach her and get her arrested to force her to testify, which then I called the Chronicle. I had Emily Foxhall come down there and report on Jenny's Law. Thank you, Emily, for that. I appreciate holding these people accountable, because when you try and arrest people to come and testify and make them testify in court, there is a line that is being drawn right there. So that notwithstanding, the judge granted a motion for directed verdict. The jury was pissed because they didn't even get to tell me not guilty. The judge basically instructed them to tell them that my client was not guilty. And I got that individual off, and I got paid by the county a nice sum of money. And like, that makes you go to wonder, this district attorney holds that decision. She didn't like me personally, so she decided she had to try that case because it was a pride thing. But most of them aren't like that. Most people are just going to try stuff on the merits of what they think they can prove. And fortunately, you know, like, I get crafty with how I do stuff. Like, I've got to present stuff differently. And that's what people don't understand about criminal lawyers, is that it's fun, man. It's fun because, like, I'm dressed up like Bob Ross, but I just gave you a pretty good summation of a case and how it works.
Dude, that was a great story. That was a great story. So you called the Houston Chronicle to,
yes.
So you called the Houston Chronicle.
It's a common trick, man. Like, and it's just a game. It's not a game, but it's like, when you're in trial, it feels like a game because there's so much of the stuff that goes on that the public isn't aware about, you know, or even the jury, for instance, isn't going to know about any of the stuff that's going on. They didn't hear any of the testimony about him not being able to wear sunglasses because he's blind. Eventually, the judge made him, like, he's like waving in front of him to, like, try to prove that he was blind. I was like, what are you doing? But it was a spectacle, and it was court appointed, which means that the government paid me to try that case. And I thank you, the citizens, for allowing me to do that. And
bro, and it's so crazy that you went above and beyond, because I've dealt with court appointed attorneys, bro. They're usually just trying to just dick you and then get in, get out,
yeah.
wham bam,
like,
wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and they're out of there.
Even in like the majority, like the main county I practice in, where I get court appointments, I call them. There's sometimes where you're not going to hear from your lawyer for a year, and I always try them because I get paid more. Like, it's just triply, like, if you have a case and I have a shot to try and convince 6 people to see it my way, I'm going to do it because it's our right. Like, it's what you have under the 6th Amendment. And so many people don't take advantage of it that you end up, we're going to go off screen here. This is the jail. And, like, it's behind the door, and the bailiff, he'll take you there if you have a bad lawyer. So, I mean, basically, it's a scary situation if you're not in it every day. But a lot of people are sitting there with lawyers that don't know what to do, or they're just praying for a smoking deal, like, or a DA that's in a really good mood. But you can't rely on that. It's not sustainable. You can't be consistently successful if you aren't fighting for your clients. And I mean, you've got to get a lawyer that's going to fight for your clients. And there's one case where I thought about wearing an orange jumpsuit just to stand in solidarity with my client, and the judge did.
That's
so
funny,
I'm
bro.
always doing stuff different.
I mean, so
my
like,
hair out. Because I was like, look, if my clients in jail can't get a haircut, why the fuck should I get a haircut? Like, it's got to be relatable, and it's what's brought me success, man. And I'm not saying I'm like the top dog. I'm not. I'm learning as I go. Last month, I had $600 in my bank account. I fucking doubled down on myself. You got to. It's the only way to survive anymore, man. Like, if you want to be financially free, you want to work for yourself, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there and do stuff like this. I don't care. Like, this is awesome for me. And I think that it speaks volumes about, like, who you need and what sort of personality you need to be going towards if you're going to hire a lawyer. Are you going to hire a guy that's going to wear a Bob Ross wig and take himself, like, not seriously? Or are you going to hire somebody who is going to tell you, no, I need $5,000, and then maybe we'll see what happens? I mean, it's up to you.
And like I mean the main points were, bro, like the way that you can like you went the extra mile, subpoena the attorney stuff. Like I've deal with lawyers, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't do all that. The way that you're checking, going into the details, if you talk about like, I mean, most lawyers, bro, like I watch my lawyer whenever I go. He's not looking at my case, dude. And like I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, like right, dude, please look at the case. Like I'm,
like here are the facts.
Like I'm not like, it's a very
it's
obvious.
Hard. It's hard for people, and it's tough, man, because I see other people that are screwed. They didn't happen to get me, right? And or a colleague of mine. Like it's not saying that every court-appointed lawyer is bad. The vast majority of them are really good. It's just that occasionally, if you don't have the funds to hire a good attorney, it should point out to people that like it's the luck of the draw in a court-appointed system.
Yeah, for sure.
As to what kind of lawyer you're gonna get, and if you want a lawyer who, because there's some cases where I don't go gimmicky, and it's a very serious matter. You know, like you've gotta know when to draw the line. But in simple misdemeanor cases, stuff like this works. But like when you've got aggravated assault of or something crazy where there's either a death or potentially a serious injury, you're not up here in a Bob Ross rig. It's just, you know how to play your audience depending on the facts that you have, and you craft a strategy. And so like my main point is to people is that my mind's always moving. Like I'm always practicing opening statements, closing statements when I'm in the shower on cases that I have that are pending, just so I can figure out if I can get around to either selling that theory or whatever, you know? So I just tell people, look, I'm constantly trying to improve myself. Look at this art. I mean, geez, I've made some progress today. I haven't drawn anything probably since I was like 8 years old. And like, obviously I retained my skill. So
yeah, that's a lot better than what I was expecting.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. What I told people. Like you've got to just figure out a way to be different. And if you do that and you do it in a way that you believe in and you fully back and you just say, fuck all the haters. I don't give a shit about what you have to say about how you think I do things. It works for me. Here's how I've gotten success from it. I will double down on myself every time. I mean, I'd hope that if I had a lawyer, that's what they would be wanting to do, you know, and I've had a lawyer that, and we're going to have him on hopefully next week, where he taught me so much about how to do this kind of thing and, how to do it well, but he makes way fucking more money than I do. He has figured it out really well. So hopefully we're going to have him on soon. But yeah, today was about a short episode, a Halloween, little treat for you guys. I just really wanted to kind of go through like a typical court day for y'all, which is for the most part, like paperwork bullshit, you know, but unfortunately, this coronavirus has kind of shown us that we don't need to necessarily disrupt these people's lives every month to keep going to court. I think that we can have them appear virtually so that they can continue working, because a lot of these people are on hourly shift jobs. And so they have to continue missing work in order to keep coming to court while they just get needless resets. So that's maybe something that we also need to take a look at as far as progressing, you know, like, and using this situation to maybe get a little bit more practical.
Awesome, bro. Yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah, so
I think that wraps up today's episode. We're coming back to you. You know, every week we're dropping an episode, guys. So stay tuned.
First guest next week, and I think we're gonna have an ad read, man. I've been hustling my ass off, getting some interest in this thing. So I'm pumped. I'm excited for you guys. Please tell me what you think. Give me your feedback. I will tell you to go fuck yourself, or I will tell you I love you. It depends on what you say.
We look forward to your profanity-filled responses.
I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm putting it out there anyway. I hope the people resonate with this and they got a little bit out of it as far as an actual lesson in how the court system works. But see you guys next week. Love y'all.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Texas Law Dog podcast, where we will get you off, literally and legally. Please tune in next week. for another episode with insights about how the criminal justice system operates. And tune in. We got a couple of special guests that will be coming up pretty soon. And a lot of fun things happening for the podcast. So we appreciate your support. Please come back next week. Subscribe, like, share. And for the love of God, please don't text me your opinions on this. Thank you.